Hi, host of the podcast Gwen, checking in from the future to let you know that this first episode is pretty rough, so feel free to skip it. We'll be posting the first 3 episodes back to back to back, so you can go and listen to 2 and 3 now, or, if you're joining us a little later, we're trying to make the start of each new arc a good onboarding episode, so skip ahead to episode 7 for the tuning exams. And if you like what we have going on, you can come back and bear with us through our humble beginnings. Thanks for hearing me out. Later.
Hi, and welcome to Konoha Crush, the operation to discuss the Hidden Leaf. I'm Ruby.
I'm Gwen.
We're going to be watching Naruto. You've probably heard of Naruto.
You've probably heard of Naruto. If you haven't...
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, this could be like a great opportunity for you to learn what Naruto is, but...
We should probably talk a little bit about the structure of the podcast moving forward, like, just get people keyed into, like, what to expect.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Basically, we're going to be walking through the episodes 3 at a time.
We might adjust that like occasionally, depending on if there's like particularly light or particularly dense weeks. But, for now the plan is 3 at a time, and we'll let you know in advance if we are like changing our minds about a specific episode.
Yeah, and then we just kind of walk through them bit by bit, just talking about stuff, sort of a breakdown and review of what's going on in Naruto. As far as tone, don't expect us to be like... I'm not expecting to be like mean-spirited towards our pal Naruto.
No, I like Naruto a lot. Like, I have a lot of fondness for it. I have read the whole thing through multiple times. I've watched every episode of this anime before. Had a good time with that in spite of everything. So, like, again, I think I will be positive about Naruto a lot of the time. But, there's some issues. We'll talk about some issues.
There is a lot of stuff that... Let's just say there are good reasons to like Naruto in spite of. And I guess we should just sort of go ahead, talk about, some stuff that's been going on.
Yeah. I mean, for one thing...
serendipity.
Yeah, serendipity. Like when you embark on a big project like this, like watching every episode of Naruto and then podcasting about it over the course of like 5 years or whatever, like it can be, even if you're not superstitious, it can be like tempting to like look for a sign that like, there's like a fortuitous omen, like perhaps, as of today, as of this recording.
I did see Sasuke do a Fortnite dance.
Sasuke could do 80 Fortnite dance, I think.
It's just so special to me.
It's beautiful. The world is so beautiful, and like I feel like we've been blessed by everybody in the world.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Well, what really gets me is so like a week ago we did a test recording just to make sure like our audio setups were fine. Like we got into the, just to make sure it was all good. And at that point, we did not know Naruto was going to be in Fortnite.
Yeah, it was really like a play. Like, I mean, so we learned a few days later, right? Where it was like, hey, the Fortnite Twitter said Naruto's going to be in Fortnite, and it was like...
Yeah, it was, exciting. We're going to have something to talk about. And then today...
we don't actually have much to say about Naruto being in Fortnite, it turns out.
Yeah.
I haven't played as Naruto in Fortnite. I'm, like, lax in my duties as a researcher, as a contributor to this podcast.
Yeah, like, I spent all my fucking time this week watching Naruto and drawing a picture for the podcast cover and playing Halo.
And Naruto's not in Halo.
Naruto's not in Halo, so like, what's even the fucking point?
Avic's eating their lunch over there at 343 Studios. Gotta get their shit together.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's just kind of what I've been up to. Anything notable in the Rubyverse?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like still kind of feeling out for what's talked about in this segment, so I don't have like a super clear idea. I also watched Naruto. I spent like 3 hours like writing notes and doing more research than is probably necessary on either side of watching each episode. And maybe I'll be able to let myself lax on that a little bit. But right now, I got to go all out.
How many times did you watch each episode?
So like I watched each episode all the way through, like without stopping once, and then I also did a lot of like stepping through them and like comparing the manga side by side. And
okay, because I basically did the same thing, except I watched it through all the way once, and then I watched through the dub all the way once, and then I did sort of a comparison with like note taking in sort of the same sort of style. So I guess if that's it. We should probably get into discussions.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing I was wondering, like, do we want to talk about, like, our history with Naruto before we get all the way into it?
Yeah. So I think you have the strongest history with Naruto in that you've seen all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of like a Naruto super fan. I'm never going to say anything incorrect about Naruto on this podcast. And if I do, you are legally allowed to behead me if you see me in person.
No.
No? I shouldn't make these claims on the podcast?
No. You won't be wrong.
Oh, okay.
The wikis might be wrong.
Yeah, like maybe like if you go and see something in like an episode or chapter of Naruto that contradicts something I've said, then like it's been edited. It's a plot to discredit me.
It's a bootleg.
But no, yeah. So I got into Naruto when I was first getting into anime and manga because back when I was first getting into that in like 2000s, there was definitely this big idea of like, here's the big three, the big shonen manga that ran in Shonen Jump that like everybody has to know about. You got Bleach, you got Naruto, you got One Piece.
Yeah.
And so I just figured it was my diligence as an anime fan to like get into all of these.
I mean, it's true, you gotta.
You don't gotta. It's okay.
I was under the impression that you gotta.
Well, I mean, if you want to hang with us cool kids, you gotta. But
okay, all right, I see. Well, I never got into One Piece, so
but yeah, you're fine. You're fine, probably. But like, yeah, again, like at the time, I think like there was definitely a sense of you had, like everybody had their own individual ranking of the big three. And, like the general consensus was like, One Piece is the best one, and then like the people who like Naruto and Bleach can just kind of like squabble with each other about which is second best. Like this was definitely the sort of attitude that I saw a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. It's Bleach, right?
That's. I mean, at the time, I was like way more drawn into Bleach. I really like I still really like Tatakuba's sense of style, but I mean, like I don't know, Naruto is the one that's just stuck with me the most. Naruto's the one I keep coming back to, one that I think about like a completely inordinate amount.
Naruto's the only one that has ended and is still coming out. So like,
Yeah, that's 2 points in his favor. I guess Bleach might be coming back, but that's not what this podcast is about.
Yeah. And me, I saw it on Cartoon Network.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I know that's the common experience. I actually didn't watch it on Cartoon Network because I didn't have television at home. But I did borrow the DVDs from like a girl I liked, and I wanted her to like me by talking about Naruto with her. And that never went anywhere. But this is the sort of thing you do when you're in high school.
Yeah, and look where you are now.
Yeah, I haven't talked to that girl in years.
Yeah. But you know what you are talking about?
I'm talking about Naruto.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I caught it on Cartoon Network and I like kept up with it there because I didn't really have the means to like, sit down and watch episodes that I wanted to watch, right? It was just watch it on TV or don't. And so like I probably missed a whole bunch of it. And then I stopped watching for a while, and then Shippuden kicked up and I started watching again for a while, and I stopped watching. And then Shippuden was going to end, so I started watching it more. So my history with Naruto is fond, but very spotty.
We're gonna fix that. You're gonna know everything about Naruto too, and we will ascend to godhood together.
Yeah, I have seen the early parts of Naruto before, but I did first watch it coming up on the Chunin exams.
Yeah, I caught up in the manga when I was in high school, and I just like kept reading it until it ended. And I wasn't really watching the anime weekly ever until like just a bit before the final fight in the anime. And then like I just kept watching through all of the like stuff that came after the final fight in the anime. And like that actually wound up being the foundation for like a lot of what I like about Naruto so much, is that like fight and that like the sort of like decompression, like chill times at the end of Shippuden that we'll talk about in like 5 years.
Yeah.
And then after that, like a couple years later, I wound up watching one episode of Naruto every day for 2 years. And I figured at the end of it, I would either like come to hate Naruto or like love Naruto more than ever before. And you can probably guess where I wound up on that from the way I've been talking so far on this podcast. But
you fucking hate its guts.
No,
you're nothing but trash talk the whole way through.
I've got some fucking harsh words for this orange kid. How's he even supposed to sneak? He's wearing orange.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
I've got that on my system. I'm gonna never make this joke again.
Okay, good. All right, good. I'm glad. No promises on my front. I think with that, finally, we can start talking about the episodes.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
So the first episode we are introduced to the sort of like backdrop of the world. We're introduced to this idea that there's this nine-tailed fox, and the Hokage seals it away in a baby and then dies. And we meet Naruto. He's not very good at being a ninja, and so he fails his ninja exams. But then one of his teachers tells him, "Hey kid, I got a secret for you," and tricks him into stealing a secret scroll that contains forbidden jutsus. He learns one of the forbidden jutsus under the impression that he is going to show it to the teacher and become a ninja, because that's like a secret way to become a ninja. But actually, it's just a power play in order for the bad teacher to get the scroll himself. So he uses the jutsu he learned to beat up the teacher and save the other teacher that he likes.
That's right. Yeah, so we're going to go like beat by beat through the episode a little more closely in detail. But before we do, I'm going to do this thing that I do where I talk about the people who worked on Naruto. I have a lot of interest in like the production history of Naruto and a lot of the like individual creators that went into like making the anime what it is. So that's going to be something I talk about a lot probably over the course of this podcast. So for starters, this episode is storyboarded and directed by Hayato Date, who is like the series director of Naruto and the vast majority of Naruto Shippuden. So like he's a guy who's kind of hard to talk about outside of Naruto because everything else he's done is a little bit overshadowed by the fact that he spent like 14 years working on this one show. Like the last time I watched this, I didn't get like a super strong sense for like what he was like as a storyboarder, because like in overseeing a show that runs for so long, like he wound up not having that many opportunities to actually like directly oversee individual episodes, but he does handle this one. And the other person I'm going to talk about for this episode is Yuji Moriyama. Yuji Moriyama is like an animation director who's been like very active in the industry for a long time. He was like a regular animation director back on Urusei Yatsura, the Rumiko Takahashi adaptation. And then like after that ended, he was the character designer on Maison Ikkoku, which is another Rumiko Takahashi adaptation. He was the character designer on the Project Eiko series and like directed several entries in that. And here he is on Naruto. And there's actually like a little bit of precedence to his presence here, because in like the couple of years before Naruto started, he was present on like 3 out of Hayato Date's 4 projects as character designer in the past 2 years, and the one he wasn't character design for, he was like animation director on a couple episodes. So it like makes a lot of sense to see him here given that past.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I had to say about that.
Okay.
So I guess we'll actually get into the episode now.
Yeah. Okay. So we open up and we see this big nine-tailed fox, and the narration is explaining that a long time ago, this big powerful fox showed up and started wrecking house. And so a bunch of ninjas stepped up to protect their village, and they were being led by the coolest, most strongest ninja named the 4th Hokage.
His name is the 4th Hokage. That's all we'll ever learn about.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about this a bit, because if you had asked me before I rewatched this episode recently, I would have like sworn to you that we got like a much clearer sense of what this guy looked like. I always thought, or at least like until very recently thought, that like the anime having come, like 3 years into the manga run, had like a bit clearer idea of like what was going on here, and there's like a clearer shot of this guy, but there's like really not. Like you get a bit of like the cloak with the flames on it, which is like something I definitely associate with that character.
Yeah.
But like there's like one shot of him from the front, and he's like extremely far away and kind of blurry, and like you can sort of tell that he's got yellow hair. That's about it. And what really shook me out of this like impression I had is that like I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but like in the Hidden Leaf Village, there's the statue faces of all the previous Hokages.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the statue for the 4th Hokage,
yeah,
it looks did you notice this? It looks nothing like him.
Hold on, I need to. Yeah, wait, hold up.
Right, it's and like I went to look in the manga, and there's actually like it's much closer to what that character winds up looking like, and so I was really like the foundations of my understanding of like what the scene was like at the end were completely shaken on this rewatch, because that's a different guy.
Naruto did a really good job at fucking up those faces. I'll tell you what.
He's just like punched the shit out of that one specifically. He hated that one.
Gee, I wonder why. I do want to point out also in this early scene is and I'm not going to bring this up for like every minor little like language difference right between the sub and the dub, but I think this one is a little bit notable when the English narrator is saying that ninjas rose up to defend their village. The English voiceover uses the word villages, and I think that just it changes the perceived scale of the threat in a way that I find like interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is going to be one other like little difference in this first episode, and then there's not really any in the other ones. So like, I'm just letting everyone know that like you're gonna say like, oh, you didn't point out that in fucking episode 2 when he says that, like, fucking shut up. That's not what I'm here for.
Yeah, we're not really like super concerned with like, I don't know, like translation inconsistencies or whatever, but there are like points of like translation where it's like, oh, this is like interesting to talk about.
Yeah, because it like changes the story or the like emotional like resonance of a thing enough to where it's just like notable enough to mention, you know?
Yeah.
And like I probably wouldn't have even mentioned this like 2 episodes into the podcast, but because it was the first scene,
you're on high alert when you're like watching the first scene of the first episode of a show for the first episode of a podcast.
Yeah, basically.
So
after we learn the Hokage seals the nine-tailed fox inside of the baby, but like dies from it, we meet Naruto.
Yeah, we cut to the present day of the story.
And Naruto is being chased by some ninjas who are mad at him for painting rude signs all over the faces of this big monument with like all the previous Hokages carved into the side of a mountain.
Yeah, I need you to understand that Naruto has not just disrespected the troops in this moment, he has disrespected the presidents of the troops, which is like a double crime.
Yeah. And so there's like a little bit of like a chase hijinks where Naruto is doing little ninja tricks to avoid being caught. But eventually someone named Iruka catches up to him, and we immediately learn that Iruka is Naruto's teacher by the use of the word sensei. And he chews him out for a little bit.
Yeah, I think the other thing to mention about this scene is that, like, as soon as we cut to the present and, like, Naruto is doing his, like, belligerence, we do get, like the first OP isn't in this episode, but the song of it plays over the sequence.
Right.
I've got to say, like, when I was, like, younger, like, this song didn't really stand out to me as, among the various openings of Naruto, and I still wouldn't say it's, like, one of my favorites, but I think it lends, like, a really great tone to this opening sequence here.
Yeah, for sure.
It is great music to see, like, a child being rude to.
I think this is also our introduction to the idea that the third Hokage is back in control since the fourth Hokage got by a fox. And he has a magic crystal ball that I do not remember at all.
Yes, he looks into his crystal ball so much in these early episodes. And I don't remember this being a crystal ball-based show, really. But, like, it's gonna be for a little while, I guess.
Yeah, so we see the third Hokage watching Naruto through the crystal ball. Like, oh, this boy's up to trouble again. He's an old man. And then we cut to class, which we can infer Naruto was playing hooky from.
Yeah, he's like tied up on the floor and like everybody's just sort of like watching him and they're sick of his bullshit.
Speaking of being sick of bullshit, this is where we learn that Naruto has a special technique.
Yeah, he's got like a great bullshit technique. I feel like next episode is the time to really go out on his bullshit technique, but you know.
This is our introduction to it, so it bears mentioning. So, Iruka-sensei has the class practice their transformation jutsus. And 2 other students that we'll learn more about later go first. Sasuke and Sakura go first, and we get a little bit of their personalities, but you know, nothing too much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's like a bunch of like characters in this who are like not in the first chapter of the manga, but because, you know, the anime comes out like 3 years into the manga, where there's like a bunch of like side characters established that can backfill all of them, and we get a bunch of guys demonstrating their character traits quick, like, you know, Shikamaru like complains about how he just complains, and we get this cut to like Hinata, who's just like looking at Naruto and blushing, and like I lost it. Like I don't know why, but it was just like so funny to me to think that like, oh, this is the show where like I saw people arguing for years about who Naruto was going to operate, who Naruto's going to end up with, and like this is the level that the romance of the show is operating on, where it's like, here's the girl who likes Naruto, we got that solved, we don't need to think about this anymore.
We can get more into that on the 3rd episode. Yeah, so they practice their transformation jutsus. The students that go ahead of Naruto make themselves look like Iruka-sensei. You know, all's fine. We get to Naruto, and Naruto decides to play a funny joke. Ruby?
Yeah, he turns into like a sexy girl.
Yeah, he turns into a tall, sexy lady.
Yeah, and he does like a voice. I don't remember if he does the sexy girl voice in this episode, or if it's like, but it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, and you know, Iruka-sensei is obviously like fucking anime affected.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you fucking cut it out with your stupid tricks, Naruto. I'm tired of your bullshit. Which, like, yeah. And then we get Naruto cleaning up the graffiti from earlier. He's not really getting it at all, because, you know, he's a kid being punished for some shit he did. And Iruka threatens him saying, I'm not going to let you leave. I'm not going to let you go home until this is all clean. Naruto isn't very responsive to that kind of manipulation, and he just says, basically, like, I don't care, I don't have, no one's home anyway. And this is where we're first keyed into the understanding that Naruto is an orphan. And so it's all like, but I don't have parents. I don't care about going home. And then Iruka's like, fine, I'll take you out to get ramen after you're done instead. And then, and he's like, oh, ramen.
The boy loves ramen.
Boy loves ramen.
We're going to hear about this from time to time.
That's when we're first keyed into the fact that Naruto loves ramen.
This is about as important as him being an orphan. I'm lying.
No, I would say so.
Well, I'm not lying then. Never mind.
And then we get title card, and then we get them at the ramen shop eating ramen.
Yeah.
It's like a little stand outside.
The Ichiraku ramen stand.
And Iruka chides him, saying like, Naruto, what the fuck, man? Don't you know who those faces are?
Yeah, and there's like a great bit here that's like this was like added in the anime, but I think it's like really charming. Where like when Iruka asks the question, Naruto is like he's already got his mouth full, and then like he just completely finishes the bowl before he answers at all.
Yeah, which
is great. Like I said at the top of this episode description that like I didn't have a great sense of like what Hayato Date is like as like a storyboard onto the show, but I think there's like a bunch of smart little like changes and additions that like make this episode flow much better than the manga. And there's also like this little characterful moment that I like a lot.
Yeah, and so Naruto goes into like, yeah, of course I know who they are. They're the best fucking ninja ever. Especially the fourth one, who is the coolest and most badass ninja ever, and he killed that big fox. Yeah, and then Iruka asks him like, okay, well then why'd you do it? And then Naruto does not give a very convincing answer. He says that he's going to be the best Hokage of all time, and that he did it because he wants to be the Hokage, and he's going to be a better Hokage than all of them.
Again, like I feel like if you want to be the best Hokage ever, you just have to convince everybody that the rest are all really shitty by painting on their faces.
Yeah, I give you a leg up for sure. And so Naruto has another question. He asks Iruka if he can wear his like headband, his like ninja forehead protector thing, and Iruka's like no, and then explains, this is the thing that proves I'm an official shinobi, and you can't wear it until you're an official shinobi. Goes into that whole thing, and it's just like, and then Naruto's like, fine, I want another bowl of ramen then. So that was just more or less our little introduction to the headband with the little symbol on it as a badge. And then we're back to the classroom.
Yeah, this is their finals, right?
Yeah, this is during their ninja finals. Iruka tells the class that they are going to be tested on their clone jutsu. And Naruto laments that he's really bad at the clone jutsu. And so we skip forward to Naruto's turn.
And he's really bad at the clone jutsu.
Yeah, and he's really bad at the clone jutsu.
He just makes like a sketchy cartoon guy who just lies on the floor looking confused.
Yeah, and then so Iruka and a new teacher we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, okay, when I first saw this guy, I recoiled a bit. I was like, who the fuck is this? Like, I know who this is, like, after those 5 seconds passed, but, like, he occupies no space in my mind. This is, like, the most first chapter villain ever of all time. He's nothing.
Yeah, no, this guy does not show up, and he is going to be the subject of my next, like, little dub difference. That'll be a little bit later. I think he's only in this episode. He might have like an anime-only thing later. I can't remember.
Yeah, he has an anime-only filler arc. We'll get to later.
Okay, exciting. Yeah, so Iruka's like, no way, you fail. You're disqualified. You couldn't do it. And so this new teacher, Mizuki...
He was like, maybe it's fine that he's shitty at this. I'm shitty at this too.
Yeah, like maybe it's okay. Like, he has lots of other stuff going for him. Like, so what if you can't do this one jutsu, right? Like, that's basically his argument. And Iruka's like, no, like literally every other student was able to like do it really well, right? It wouldn't be right to just let him slip by, even though like this was the test as established and everyone else passed. Fine, we can't just change it for Naruto. And so Naruto just doesn't get to graduate. Okay, show over. He
really fucked up. He never became the Hokage. It's like a cruel story about like the realities of the world. Sometimes you just never get what you want.
Yeah, good. This is my favorite 6-minute anime.
Okay, but actually, from there we cut to like outside of the class and like everybody else is like coming to pick up their kids. And because Naruto doesn't have any parents, he's sitting on like one of the most enduring images in Naruto, the loneliness swing.
The loneliness swing is very strong, and we see 2 women basically gossiping about Naruto, saying it's good actually that he didn't get to become a ninja. And one of them starts to say something like, that kid's really, and then the other one shuts her up saying like, no, we're not allowed to talk about that. And they cut off, and then we find Mizuki approaches Naruto, basically pulls him away to go talk in private, while we see the Hokage and Iruka Sensei starting to catch on that maybe something's up. They need to have a conversation elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We meet Naruto and Mizuki off, like, sitting on a high platform somewhere. Looks like maybe a roof or a balcony or some such. And Mizuki starts off by being, like, really reassuring to Naruto. Tells him that, like, Iruka doesn't hate him. He just wants him to get stronger. You know, because, like, Iruka believes in him and all that stuff. And then Naruto's just like, but I really wanted to graduate. And Mizuki tells him a secret.
There's like an extra special scroll full of like super good techniques in the Hokage's office, and if you steal it and do one of those techniques, you know, you get to graduate. And this is like obviously a very normal above the board school practice. But Naruto's 12, he doesn't know shit. He's like, sure.
Yeah, right, like, and to be fair, with what we know about, like, future school practices in this world.
Yeah, like that tracks like, a little bit.
Yeah, right, like, okay, yeah, there's a secret scroll in the Hokage's office, and if you learn a jutsu from it, then, like, that's proof that you're a good ninja.
Oh, they'll let me be a ninja if I, like, prove I can do awesome ninja shit? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Mizuki tells Naruto about the thing, and then we see Iruka laying in bed, it's dark out, and Mizuki comes knocking at the door and basically tells on Naruto, saying, like, oh, Naruto took the secret scroll. And so they go off to fucking look for him, and then it's a whole big, huge deal where all the ninjas in the village are like, oh no, it's like so bad that Naruto has the scroll. Everyone needs to look for him.
Also, I want to say, I think like these last few minutes, like I think some of the smartest like reordering that happens in the episode, because in the manga, there's like a lot of like really frantic, like 1 page or less scenes that it keeps cutting between. And here, I think like it really smartly condenses a lot of that stuff into like, well, like it combines as many scenes as it can. So like in the manga, you get like, you have like Naruto on the swing, and then like Naruto, and then like that's a scene, and then you have like Naruto meeting Mizuki, and that's a scene, and then you like cut to Naruto talking with Mizuki somewhere else, and that's another scene. And they also cut like a 1 page scene where Naruto like breaks into the Hokage's office and like does a sexy jutsu on the third Hokage and like to like get the scroll. I think it's like a correct call to remove that here because it's not really very dramatically compelling, and it kind of like messes with the tone of this part of the episode. Or it would if it was in the anime.
Yeah, and every time they can cut a usage of sexy jutsu, like, chef's kiss. Perfect.
It's okay, they'll make up for lost time in future episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, and so all the different shinobi are like, oh, we gotta go find him, and they split off, and like, everyone's looking, and the Hokage is like, blah, and points, and you see everyone jump away. And then you see Mizuki, and this is where we learn that, ha ha ha, it was all a ploy. I want the scroll. And he has a very evil face now, and 2 large shuriken tied to his back.
Yeah, that's how you know this guy is a fucking jobber. His ninja technique is that he has 2 big shuriken, and it's not even like the cool big shuriken. These are like just the bullshit small shuriken, but bigger. And like a shuriken is just, in Naruto, it's the weapon you throw when you want to like see if the other guy's as good as you and that nothing happens. Like this guy's no good. This guy's worthless.
Yeah, shuriken are for throwing, and then the other person also throws shuriken, and they meet in the middle, and you're like, okay, now we can fight. Yeah, okay, so, like, we learn that, like, ha ha ha, I told Naruto to get this evil scroll so that I could have it, actually. And then, Iruka finds Naruto. And Iruka's like, Naruto? What the fuck, for real? And then Naruto explains, like, ha ha ha, you found me, but I learned the jutsu. So can I show it to you now and become a ninja? And Iruka's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And so Iruka catches on really soon that Naruto was manipulated into doing this. But not soon enough to avoid getting super stabbed by Mizuki.
Yeah, he gets hit by kunai, which has like a slightly higher success rate than shuriken.
I mean, to be fair, he threw like 20 kunai. So like, you know, and then they have a little bit of a back and forth, and Naruto's like, what's going on here? And I think this is where Mizuki lets it slip that something's been going on vis-a-vis Naruto and that fox that went away 12 years ago. And this is actually where I think the biggest departure from the dub and the sub. Mizuki explains that nobody's allowed to talk about it, but Naruto actually is that evil fox spirit. Now, we know that the spirit was just sealed inside a baby boy.
Mm-hmm.
And in the dub, Mizuki also says that, like, the fox spirit is sealed inside of you.
Huh. That's interesting, because I feel like you definitely get the impression from the way that a lot of people in the village talk about Naruto that, like, the understanding is that Naruto is just the fox as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a weaker character motivation for him to, like, obviously he wants the scroll, but, like, he sees Naruto as not only acceptable, but like a virtuous person to take out to get it. He thinks, oh, I'll get stronger and I'll be the one that took out that evil fox. And like, it's not even that the dub totally drops the concept of some people believing that Naruto just like is the fox, because in the next episode, the Hokage has a little speech about, like, how the people see Naruto and stuff, and he mentions it there. It's just, like, really weird to make that change in this spot. Because also what it does is, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, so maybe I should talk about it later, but, like, there's a point where Naruto is, like, hiding behind a tree while Iruka and Mizuki are, like, talking. And there's this, like, really, like, emotional rejection of Mizuki's understanding of Naruto from Iruka, right? And I think just like that whole setup and that whole interaction is a lot less impactful if Mizuki's just like, yeah, he has the fox in his tummy, instead of Naruto is literally a devil fox.
Totally.
Yeah, so we learned that from, yeah, so Mizuki tells Naruto and Iruka's like, no, don't say it, it's not allowed. And Naruto's like, you know, his whole fucking world is shattering around him. And then we get a quick flashback to the third Hokage talking to Iruka, telling him to be nice to Naruto because he's just a kid without parents. Like, he's going to act out and people are going to treat him poorly for it, right? And Iruka is someone who is in a position to empathize with that because Iruka is also an orphan from the fox attack 12 years ago. And so Mizuki and Iruka are done talking. Mizuki throws his big shuriken and Iruka takes the hit square in the back for Naruto, like shielding him. And Naruto's all like, oh my god, why'd you do that? You're like really fucking hurt now. And then Iruka says, because you and I are the same, and then he tells Naruto to run. Naruto runs, and there's like a little bit of a chase.
We talked a bit about how like I don't really care much for Mizuki, but I think the Iruka stuff here really works. Like, I think it's just like,
yeah, no, he's like he's an okay bad guy for like the very first, you know.
Yeah, he's not anything. He doesn't really need to be anything, but it is pretty funny to talk about how much he sucks.
Yeah. Right, and we get a little flashback of, like, Iruka's childhood without parents or whatever, and, like, the loneliness he faced, and then, like, you know, Iruka starts crying with a big shuriken in his back. Naruto runs away.
Naruto's acquired his first father figure.
Yeah. So Naruto takes off running. Mizuki lands, and he's still on his shit. He's saying, like, what, you just gonna let him get away with that scroll? You know he's gonna take it out on the village, you know, on account of him being a big evil fox. And I don't remember exactly what he said in the dub, but it was basically that horseshit, except like, oh, you know, he might as well be as evil as the fox would be.
That just makes it so much weaker. That's so strange.
Yeah, and so we see the crystal ball again, Naruto running, the Hokage's watching.
The bits of Naruto running through the trees in this episode, like, I found really striking, just because, like, by later Naruto, there's a very, like, specific rhythm of, like, people jumping through trees where they, like, kick off a branch with one foot and they float through the air for a while and they land another branch and they kick off that branch with the other foot. And, like, it's just such this, like, established thing that, like, it feels very different to see Naruto just, like, scrambling through the treetops on all fours like he does in this episode.
Yeah, and, like, not even just Naruto, like, the other ninjas are doing it too.
Mm-hmm. It is cool to see the ways that, like, there's a lot of things that are, like, immediately here. Like, I think that Tetsuya Nishio and Hirofumi Suzuki's designs for this show, like, they, like, basically immediately have it. But there's a bunch of small parts of the visual language that haven't been fully established, and it's really interesting to see, like, the things that are there in place of those. For sure. We also learn that from the third Hokage looking through his crystal ball, that if Mizuki actually killed Naruto, it would be really, really bad because the fox would come out. People aren't ready for that, really. Like, you know.
No.
Like the second Hokage is already dead. If the third Hokage is dead, we're going to have to find a new one.
Yeah. And so we get a sequence where Naruto's scrambling on the trees, and then Iruka comes up, and then Iruka's like, oh, come here, stop. And then Naruto punches him really hard, sends him flying. You know, they land, and then Iruka, like, poofs into Mizuki and is like, how'd you know it wasn't me? And then Naruto poofs into Iruka, because I'm me. You know, and then that's when we get the whole, like, no, I know Naruto's not like that. Naruto's a hard worker. He's a good kid. He's just, you know, he just acts out because he doesn't have parents and is super lonely. And Naruto hears that, And, with the way it's phrased, at first it sounds like Iruka is agreeing with Mizuki, and so Naruto's all like, oh no, he was right, nobody really loves me, he's just nice to me because he's told to. And Mizuki's whole argument through this scene is like, oh, he's a beast, he's just gonna lash out, he's dangerous, we should put him down. And Iruka's like, yeah, that's right, it is dangerous. If Naruto was a beast... and then he goes into the whole, like, Naruto's a good kid stuff, and then Naruto's like, oh, haha, I love my teacher.
Yeah, it's like, genuinely very sweet.
Yeah. And then Mizuki winds up to throw his second large shuriken.
Okay, I don't think he's trying to throw it. He's, like, spinning it. He's just gonna, like, try... Like, I was reading this, he's, like, he's gonna, like, slash him, like, up close by spinning the shuriken at him. And then Naruto headbutts him, and the shuriken, like, sails off into the trees, and Mizuki's got nothing left. This guy's fucked. He has 2 shuriken. And then he's done for.
Yeah, and then Naruto showed off the jutsu he learned.
Yeah.
And becomes, like, 300 of himself.
Hell yes.
And then we hear a bunch of funny cartoon noises.
It's so good. Like, I do love that, like, both in the manga and in the anime, the big shot of the episode, like this, like the big double page splash in the manga, and it's like this is the big climactic moment of the anime. Is that, like, this isn't like it's not like a fight happening. It is like Naruto succeeding at this thing that, like, he wants to do. And, like, part of this might be like a practicality thing. Like, I know there's like a bit in, like, one of the manga volumes where Masashi Kishimoto talks about how, like, whenever there's like a big shadow clone scene, like, he and his assistants are just like staying up all night inking all of these shadow clones. But also, like, I think it's like a nice thematic beat that, like, it doesn't really matter what happens after this. It's kind of foregone conclusion that 300 Narutos are going to beat up this guy, and we get our cartoon noises. And
what could he possibly do? Pull out a third shuriken? From where?
No room for that.
No room for that. You get big shuriken, you only get 2. They're really heavy.
Maybe when he comes back later, he'll have 3, and that's, like, what makes him a threat.
It's too scary. But yeah, Naruto does his shadow clone jutsu, and he turns into 300 of himself, which is... And, like, watching through this first as a child, I was a little bit confused as to why it would be, like, a... What is the main difference between Naruto's shadow clone jutsu and the clone jutsu that they were learning in class earlier?
I mean, in the manga, there's, like, a panel where, like, Iruka's just, like, sitting there very explicitly spelling it out that, oh, the shadow clones are solid, unlike the regular clones, which are just illusions. But, like, in the anime, they cut that, and it's, like, kind of a clunky line, so it's probably fine. But, like, the distinction isn't made super apparent in the anime if you don't already know it.
Right, at least in this episode. Cartoon noises, shot back down, Mizuki's just fucking has the snot beat out of him lying on the floor. And Iruka's like, wow, that kid's really something. They call all the ninjas back, it's okay now, and then it's the morning, and Iruka's like, alright, Naruto, I guess it was true that if you learned a technique from that scroll, you became a ninja, because I guess I'm just making you a ninja now.
I think it's fair. I think it's also very good that, like, he picked the one, like, pretty normal jutsu in that scroll. Because everybody talks about how there's all these various dangerous techniques in there. And, like, Shadow Clone's, like, a pretty normal jutsu in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's eventually recontextualized a thing that's just, like, really inconvenient for most people.
Yeah.
But everything else in there is apparently very, very, like, something we should be worried about. So it's good that Naruto picked the least dangerous one to learn.
Yeah.
He's got good instincts.
Yeah, we learn later that the only reason Shadow Clone Jutsu was in that scroll in the first place was because it's, like, dangerous to the user, because your chakra gets spread too thin and you die, because you don't have any chakra in your body anymore once you spread it out between, like, 100 clones. But Naruto, for special reasons, is resistant to that downside.
He's got all the chakra in him.
He's got so much chakra in him.
We don't really talk much about chakra in this first episode, but just rest assured, he's got a lot of it in him, and that's important.
A little boy will teach us all about it in the next one.
Okay, yeah, I guess, do you have anything else we want to say about this episode before we move on to that next one? I mean, I guess we should talk about the ending theme that comes up here. Right. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say about it, or should I lead us into this?
I mean, I think it's a good song. I like it.
Yeah, no, this song is like it is like immensely nostalgic to me. It is like it is like immediately comforting for me here. It just like occupies such a huge place in my mind, and also I think the sequence is like really great. Like I think it's it's really like cool distillation of like the sense of loneliness that Naruto's feeling. This sequence is like storyboarded and like key animated solo by Toshiyuki Suru, who is somebody I'm probably going to talk about a lot on this podcast. But so I'm not going to get like all the way into like my feelings on his work right here, but like I think right now it's safe to say that like Toshiyuki Suru is somebody who has like a very good sense of the appeal of Naruto and does a really good job of like drawing that out of his work, of like expanding on the source material in really like satisfying ways. I think the clearest point of reference for what Toshiki Tsuru's work is like is like the one that'll like probably register to like the largest amount of people who'd be hearing this is that he is the director on the episode where Rock Lee drops the weights when he's fighting Gaara.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, so we're ready to move on to episode 2. So in episode 2, Naruto takes a bad picture. We meet a little boy. Naruto teaches that little boy some troubling techniques.
And then they use the troubling techniques to own the little boy's teacher. And that's basically it.
That's basically it. It wasn't a very, there wasn't a lot going on in this episode.
But before we get into the not a lot going on in this episode, we should talk about the first opening of the show.
I have a thing to say about the opening of the show.
What do you have to say about this opening?
I'm gonna save it till the end of the opening discussion.
Okay. So, this opening is also directed by the guy I just talked about, Toshiki Tsuru. And the animation director on is Hirofumi Suzuki, who, in addition to being one of the character designers on this show, collaborates with Tsuru on like most of his episodes. And like again, like this is just like one of the like core like creative teams of Naruto. I think they're like responsible for defining so much of like what Naruto feels like to me. It's like a great creative collaboration. And then also, like among the people who like animate in this opening, the one I have to mention right now is Norio Matsumoto, who is like an industry legend in his own right. Like both for his work outside of Naruto, but also like his work inside of Naruto is like very foundational in like showing what action in Naruto looks like. He does like the big rotating action cut in this episode, and also he animates like a bunch of the big fight from like episode 133 that you can see set to like any music you wanted to on YouTube in 2008.
Or now. I mean, those videos are still out.
Those videos are probably still up. Some of them might be quietly silenced, and that'll be a bummer, but like you could probably find a Linkin Park song of your own to play over it.
Yeah. So this opening has a Grimportant.
What's the Grimportant?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but in this whole sequence, Sakura doesn't do fucking anything.
She like grabs a guy and like brings him to the ground in the action bit.
She puts one guy in an arm lock and then doesn't even get to dodge the big log by herself.
It's fine. I do think it's really funny that when it's like showing everybody's like individual shot of them, like Sasuke's like standing on top of a tree brooding, and like Naruto's like taking a nap in a tree, and like Sakura's just touching a rock.
Yeah.
The poor girl just doesn't have anything to work with.
Yeah, so that's...
Like, yeah, I think this is like a pretty cool sequence. It's like, I don't think it really registers in like anybody's list of like the most iconic Naruto openings, just because the amount of the cast that's in it is so small. But I think it is pretty good at like capturing like, here's the appeal of like Naruto. Like, you know, you get the sense of like Naruto coming closer to his team, and you know, like Sasuke in particular. It's kind of the central relationship of the whole show that we're not gonna talk about that much right now, but you know.
Yeah, we could just see Sasuke and Naruto being bros for a sec.
Yeah, and it's like, it's cool.
Yeah, it's a good song.
It's a good song.
The episode itself opens up to Naruto.
Yeah, it opens up like a Calvin and Hobbes like school picture day bit.
Yeah, where Naruto is covered in like white and red face paint, and the photographer is just like, "Are you sure about this?" Naruto insists, and he takes a picture in a really funny pose.
We get the title card, and then we cut to like the Hokage office, and like the Hokage's like, "Hey, you can't do this. You gotta be taking this more seriously." I guess it's like a little more severe than like the average school picture day, because like realistically speaking, if that's the picture that's on his file, that's like, oh, here at Naruto's funeral, if he dies, we'll have like a picture of him doing a goofy face. Mm-hmm. And that'd be like a weird thing for everybody. But,
yeah, right. And it's like, if he goes missing, that's the picture that they'll show everybody to try and find him.
Yeah, you're the bingo book.
Yeah, right. Like
dangerous criminal.
Yeah, and so the Hokage is in this big office, and he saw Naruto take the picture again, and a little boy comes barging in.
And he falls flat on his face.
Yeah, he's saying he's gonna challenge the Hokage. Fucking, his days are numbered. Fucking, I'm gonna come get your ass. He trips over his own feet, busts his face on the floor, starts crying sabotage.
Yeah, I've got some nice things to say about this little boy. I think the bit where he runs into the room and falls on his face, there's like some really funny frames of animation in there.
Yeah.
And I think that his voice actor, Ikue Otani, is like sort of the premier funny baby voice actor in all of anime.
Yeah. His English voice is pretty good too.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, like, it sounds basically very similar. I don't know any of the English voice actors' names. I might fix that later.
Yeah, like, maybe we do a thing where we talk about the voice actors at some point, but there's a lot to cover in this first episode, and we're still figuring the format out, so, like, if we do that, we probably won't do it this time.
Yeah.
We haven't done that research right now.
Yeah, also the baby boy has a shuriken, and I don't think baby boy should be allowed to run with shurikens.
No, probably not. They should teach that to... We gotta get Abuso on the phone and be like, hey, you need to be teaching the kid not to run with sharp objects.
Yeah, I guess it goes against the whole sort of ninja thing.
Right, but he can't stay on his feet. You gotta let him start running with sharp objects at some point. But there should be a cutoff before where it's it's a bad idea.
Right. And so the baby boy's retainer comes in and he's like, oh my god, honorable grandson, are you okay? And, we learn that this kid is the grandson of the Hokage. And they notice Naruto's in the room. The kid, I don't think they've said his name yet, but I'm gonna just call him Konoha because it's his name. Mm-hmm. Walks over to Naruto and he's just like, you're not gonna say shit to me because I'm the Hokage's grandson. Naruto does not give a fuck.
Naruto will punch a child. That's what we need in our heroes, the ability to punch a child. I don't believe that. Don't quote me on that. But he does punch a child.
He does punch a child. Naruto is fully capable of punching a child on the head. And so Konohamaru gets a scolding from his teacher guy. He's got sunglasses, whole thing. But, he gets a talking to by his teacher guy and, he's all like, stick with me, kid. I'll show you how it's done to be a real ninja. None of this tripping over your own feet, barging in on the Hokage shit.
Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, if you work with me, it's basically a shortcut to being Hokage because I'm such a great teacher.
Yeah, Konohamaru is not having it. He does not care what this dude says. He is the lamest motherfucker in town, and so he just leaves while the dude's talking. We learn that this kid does this several times a day, which is funny. Mm-hmm. Barges in the Hokage trying to assassinate him.
Before we move on from this scene in the Hokage's office, there's a few things I want to point out.
Yeah.
The first is that there's multiple times in this scene where we just cut outside to the loneliness swing to establish a brief amount of time passing.
Right.
Because we have time. The other thing is that in this scene, there is a secret fourth character who's sitting next to the Hokage at his desk. And he's in 3 shots at the beginning of the scene. And for the entire rest of the scene, he's every shot is composed so that he's just out of frame.
Right.
And it's really funny to me. This is true in the manga also. But it's way more striking in the anime because the scene goes on for so much longer.
Right. That's really funny. I noticed him at the beginning, and I guess I figured I just totally forgot about him in the preceding scenes. That's awesome.
Yeah, I wonder what that guy's up to. We'll never know. I don't think that's a named character.
No.
He's got a hat?
I mean, what's really funny is that, in the previous episode, they, inserted in characters that we would know later that, weren't in the earlier manga chapter. Mm-hmm. They did not remove a character that never shows.
He's important to the scene.
Yeah. He's important to the scene because we need to know that the Hokage doesn't just sit in his office by himself.
Yeah, there's in the manga, there's a shot of him making a shocked face when Naruto. I think it's when it's either when Konohamaru falls over or when Naruto punches Konohamaru. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't even get that in the anime.
It would have been fun if this was our first shot of Kakashi, right? Because then
Is Kakashi the guy who sits in the Hokage's office that much though?
No, but the reason they could backfill Kakashi being there as sort of the reasoning for it, even if it's not explained necessarily, was that Kakashi was going over students that he was going to take onto his squad. Right, because this is about, chronologically speaking, I would imagine that this is about when they're deciding that stuff and getting all the pictures. Mm-hmm. So it could be fucking whatever, just to make it a face that we know.
We've talked about this guy for so long. Let's move on.
Yeah, we can't. We can't.
We've talked about this guy for longer than anybody else on the planet has.
All right. Naruto's walking down the street. Konohamaru is doing a really bad job trailing him. He's putting a sheet over himself to make him look like a rock in the middle of the road with his feet out. He's going up against the wood wall with the fence print sheet, but the posts are going the wrong way, horizontally instead of vertically, with his hands and his hair sticking out. All sorts of funny, haha, he's not very good at hiding hijinks.
This is a pretty cute bit from the manga to extend out a bit. This is fine. This isn't a problem to me.
Yeah, and so Naruto's eventually just alright kid, what's up? And Konohamaru acts all cool ha, good eyes. You must be a pretty good ninja to see through my disguise. And so Konohamaru approaches him asking how to be a cool and strong ninja just like Naruto is. Which shows just impeccable taste in good ninja. Mm-hmm. And so Naruto's no way, but then Konohamaru starts calling him boss and Naruto likes the sound of it. So he's alright, I'll go. Let's see what you got, kid.
This is also still pretty fun. Still having a pretty good time with this episode.
Yeah, and so Naruto takes him, walking down the road, talking about the basics. Naruto mispronounces chakra. He calls it chadara, which Konohamaru imagines a funny ninja kitty cat and asks if he means chakra. Naruto's haha, yeah. All the cool real ninjas say chadara.
It's we were really close with chakra. We're bros.
Yeah.
In the manga, I want to point out, we still haven't heard like word one about chakra.
Okay, that's really fun.
Yeah, it's like the storyboarder on this episode and the next one, and like presumably people who wrote the script also, were given like kind of like a thankless task in like expanding these episodes out for the anime, because there's like these are like pretty light chapters. Like the first episode is like adapting like a 50-page long chapter, and like you can do a lot to like make that flow better, and like like you just like add a bunch of fun details, which I think Hayato Tate does like a pretty good job of. But Hideyuki Matsui, who's the storyboarder on this episode and the next one, is kind of trying to draw water from a stone here, and like he's done pretty good so far, but I think his luck is about to run out.
Yeah, and so Naruto asks Konohamaru what he knows about chakra, and Konohamaru gives the whole explanation of like, oh, it's the fucking energy in your body, blah blah blah. You use it to do your ninja magics, all that stuff, and then Naruto's impressed for a second until he sees that Konohamaru is just reading it off of a scroll. Naruto explains that, gives the like horse shit, like to be a strong ninja you need hard work and guts. And Konohamaru's like, oh wow. And then he's like, alright, now to test what you got, let's try your transformation jutsu. Konohamaru's like, alright, who do I transform into? And he points out a lady that's like at a shop stall over across the street or whatever.
And in Konohamaru's defense, he's about to fuck this up, but I feel like Naruto has given him a pretty tough task, because if you look at this woman, the thing you'll notice is that she's not a Naruto character.
Yeah, there's just a lot of...
Like, the hair is completely off, the facial structure is completely off. Like, if we have, like, episode notes, we'll try to put this in here so you can see. But, like...
It's really funny. Yeah, and like I've been paying a lot of attention to how the sort of like Naruto like art style is, because I'm trying to mimic it to some degree for our cover art. And yeah, wow.
She's just from a different show.
Yeah, and so like Konohamaru like understandably just does not know how to process that. And he turns into like a big like unibrow fat lady. It's kind of
it's cheap. It's not like a good joke. It's not funny. It's just like
yeah, haha, he did it bad. And then the lady's all like, oh, honorable grandson, next time make me cuter. And then she fucking hits Naruto. And then they go and look at some saucy magazines to give Konohamaru a better idea of what women look like, and they're kicked out of the store.
This is the part of the episode where like they really start working in overdrive to draw this out. Like basically none of this of like Naruto trying to teach Konohamaru what a sexy girl is in the manga, but it goes on for so long here, and it's like interminable, and like it doesn't result in anything worthwhile. Okay,
so then they both transform, and then they walk into like a bathhouse or something on the women's side. Konohamaru is again they did the fat ugly lady joke again. They walk in and like everyone there immediately recognizes Naruto's girl form and kicks them out. And it's, and then they're in the woods. They're in the woods, and Konohamaru's feeling down because he can't do it right. Naruto's like, okay, try one more time. I got you. I'll walk you through it. And so, like, he transforms. Again, it's the fat, ugly lady joke. And Naruto...
They've really just got the one joke.
And so, like, we pan out to watch Tree Line, and then Naruto gives a bunch of, like, advice, like, okay, skinnier, okay, no more cute, now, okay, blah, 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 blah. And so, like...
The closest thing to, like, a joke that works in this bit is, like, when it's panning up, and, like, because they don't have to do a visual gag, it's just Ikuya Tani doing, like, different ridiculous cartoon voices. And, like, I'll listen to Ikuya Tani doing ridiculous cartoon voices.
Then we see Konohamaru's teacher, like, looking out, like, honorable grandson, where the fuck are you? Where could you be? I'm not gonna let this Naruto punk fucking ruin you with his tricks. Which, too late, bud.
Yeah, so I actually want to talk about this a bit. I'm going to talk about, like, the early manga translation, and again, this is not, like, a sense of, like, oh, they fucked up here. This isn't the sense of, like, oh, here's, like, a big translation error. It's just, like, there's, like, a bunch of stuff in Ebisu's dialogue in this chapter that, like, points to, like, an incomplete understanding of the work, and, like, that's fine. That's just the job, when you get the first volume of Naruto on your desk in, like, 2002, before the anime isn't a thing in like America, before you have like any source, like, get a context for what the thing is as a whole. Like, there's just stuff you aren't gonna know, but there's definitely the sense that Ebisu's dialogue has been, like, punched up in a way to, like, try and make him sound more like pompous and bombastic, and that's fine, but, like, he, like, gestures to all these details that just don't line up, which is fascinating to me.
For example?
Like, he talks about how he's, like, in a long line of trainers who've prepared countless candidates for Hokage. And, like, first of all, success rate on this can't be very high.
4 of them ever.
only been 4 of them ever, and like this isn't stuff we know right now in the manga, but like the first 2 were like a guy and his brother, so like he probably wasn't involved in the selection there, and like we know who taught the 4th one, and it wasn't like anybody he was related to, so like maybe his grandpa like trained the 3rd or something.
Yeah,
but like that's all he's got.
Yeah, okay. And then, so that we see that guy, and he's looking over, and then we see Naruto and Konohamaru again, in the woods still. Strangely, there's a vending machine there. I don't know where this is supposed to be. You know, I guess they just have vending machines in the woods. So they're drinking stuff from the vending machine in the woods. This is where we get Konohamaru's whole, like, heart-to-heart, like, oh, you know, nobody treats me like my own person because I'm the grandson of the Hokage. Like, barely anybody ever uses my name. By the way, it's Konohamaru. You know, that all that stuff. That's why he wants to be the Hokage now, so that he gets to be the Hokage instead of always being like, you know, compared to the Hokage, or like referred only in comparison to the Hokage, right?
And this is like a fine thing for like, oh, here's like a kid who's got kind of a limited understanding of the world, and here's like a conflict they're having, right? I just wish they made a better episode about it. Yeah.
And so Naruto gives him the whole like, well, if you want to be Hokage, you're gonna have to beat me first. And then we see the Hokage on his, like, on the roof of his office, and Iruka approaches, asking about Naruto. And this is where we get the whole, you know, oh, it's not going to be easy for Naruto because everyone hates his ass speech from the Hokage. Where we learned that, like, I mean, we already knew this, but we learned that, like, he was the baby boy that the fox got sealed into. And to, like, protect him and stuff, we made sure that, like, nobody ever talked about it. But that has caused, a growing resentment of this boy. Even to the point where a lot of people believe that, like, he just is the evil fox spirit.
Mm-hmm. And, like, the other kids in the village, like, they aren't allowed to know about this, but, like, they see their parents being like, this kid's bullshit, and they're like, oh, this kid must be bullshit.
Right. Yeah, you know, just so we get the Konohamaru sob story right next to the Naruto sob story back to back, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's like, all these people are going through some shit.
Yeah, like all these kids are going through some shit. And then we see Konohamaru's teacher flying through the woods. He lands and he's like, haha, I found you. I'm going to be an authority figure now. And specifically, he looks at Naruto and scoffs and thinks to himself, we get a little thing where, like, he sees Naruto as the demon fox, right? Mm-hmm. Approaches Konohamaru and he's just like, honorable grandson, you got to come with me, and I got to show you about, like, virtue and shit.
It's like, you need to learn 1,000 jutsus to become the Hokage, and you know, nobody else is going to teach you 1,000 jutsus. There's nobody else in this village who knows 1,000 jutsus.
Yeah, no. But he approaches and he's just like, all right, come with me. I'm going to teach you about honor and justice or whatever. And Konohamaru, like, shows off the now complete sexy jutsu. This
is, like, a pretty weak moment to, like, hinge the, like, climax of the episode around.
Yeah, it's just rough. And, like, it doesn't even work. You know, he's just like, he just gets mad and he's just like, what the fuck did you teach the kid?
Which, like, valid question, frankly. Right? That kid's, like, 8.
Right. And so he's like, come with me, I'm gonna fucking, you know, scold you, and, like, you know, I gotta get you out of here first. I can deal with Naruto later. And then, so he starts trying to drag Konohamaru away by the scarf, which is, like, a bad place to try to drag a child, I guess. Like, it doesn't work.
Yeah, he doesn't seem that equipped for this job, frankly.
But, to be fair, we know that this kid carries knives. So grabbing him normal style is kind of in the danger zone.
That's true. You know, maybe grabbing him by the scarf is part of the training, right? So if, like, you do start accidentally training the child, then the child gets experience for how to get out of that situation.
Right. So Naruto responds to this by doing a shadow clone jutsu, and then having all of his shadow clones in what he has dubbed harem no jutsu turn into the sexy ladies.
We've been kind of talking around, like, the stuff with the sexy jutsu. Do we want to, like, dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you have to say about it besides just...
I mean, like, so to me, when I was, like, you know, like I'm a trans woman, and I was, like, a young, repressed child reading Naruto for the first time, there was a part of me that found it, like, sort of, like, compelling that, like, in the world of Naruto, like, the ability to turn into a girl is, like, almost frivolously easy to the point that people get kind of annoyed when you do it as if it's something impressive.
Right, yeah.
I'd like, you know, so, like, to me, there was, like, a sense of, like, oh, this could have all sorts of implications about, like, gender expression in the ninja world, and of course Naruto isn't about that.
Yeah, no, of course it's nothing.
But, like, to me, when I was young, that was like such a thing I latched onto and was, like, curious about, and, like, pretty bad, like, angle to try and get on Naruto, because there's nothing there, but, like...
Right. Yeah, for sure. However, the way it's actually used is, bad.
Yeah. Right, so something else I want to touch on is that, like, another thing about the kind of, like, weirdness of the early manga translation is that, like, a lot of the names of the various techniques are, like whatever style guide exists by the time that the anime dub starts, it's just not there in the manga. So, like, all of the techniques have, like, different names. Like, Shadow Clone Jutsu is Art of the Doppelganger, and, like, Sexy Jutsu is, like, the Ninja Centerfold, and stuff like that. And there's also a bit where Ebisu refers to, like, ninjutsu as a whole as illusions.
Yeah, I noticed they use the word spell in the subs that I'm watching.
They should talk about them as spells more often. This is wizards now.
Yeah, so that's fun. They never say spell in the dub, unfortunately.
That's a tragedy. Another thing about, like, the sort of, like, still evolving visual language of the anime is, like, eventually the image, like, a bunch of shadow clones appearing is like, oh, they come out of puffs of smoke. But, like, here they just kind of, like, flicker into existence. And, like, in the opening, actually, like, there's a bit where Naruto does the shadow clones, and they, like, there's kind of, like, this, like, chromatic blur around him as they, like, rush out of his body, and that's, like, a pretty cool effect, but it's not something that sticks around, really.
Yeah, definitely.
And, like, making a bunch of clouds of smoke is, like, at the scale where there's, like, hundreds of Narutos running around, like, probably more economical than, like, trying to, like, animate a sequence of, like, hundreds of guys running out of Naruto, and also, like, less silly looking.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to talk about the harem jutsu for a second.
Okay.
Let's say you are someone who is susceptible to the sexy jutsu, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Let's have this thought experiment.
Okay.
Let's say you are someone who is, like, potentially susceptible to the sexy jutsu, however is unaffected by the singular sexy lady in front of you.
Uh-huh.
Would adding many more change that effect?
Here's what I think. I think that we should, like, standardize this so that, like, every character in the Naruto universe has, like, a numerically quantified, like, amount of sexy girls that it takes for them to be affected by the sexy jutsu.
Mm-hmm.
And this can go on, like, they're like, they can just go on their ninja info cards. And it can be, like, an important part of quantifying the power levels of the character in Naruto.
I've also noticed that being a practitioner of the sexy jutsu makes you extremely resistant to its effects.
Naruto is over boobs.
Okay, so that's the last time we're going to talk about that.
It's not.
No, but, you know.
Like, it's probably the most at length we're going to talk about it for a while, at least.
Yeah, so Naruto makes a bunch of shadow clones, and they all turn into naked ladies, and then, what's this dude's name, Ebisu?
Yeah, Ebisu.
One sexy lady made out of the grandson of the third Hokage? Not enough. Like 20 sexy ladies made out of Naruto? Ooh boy, that gets him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Hokage is like, hoo, because he's watching through the crystal ball, of course. He always is.
And he's like, damn, it's a good thing I'm too far away from all these sexy ladies to be affected.
I can still see them.
Yeah, but, you know, it's about the proximity. The crystal ball is sort of like it like interferes with the effect.
Yeah, he's like, hoo, what a devious technique. Good thing I'm not there, or else I would have gotten got. So then we're back to the show being good, where Konohamaru is talking about, you know, more of the sappy, like, I want to be the Hokage stuff, and then, like, Naruto's just, like, more of the sappy, like, you know, it takes a lot to be the Hokage, like, for real, actually. You know, I'm even trying to become the Hokage, so, like, I would know. And then Konohamaru is like, alright, Naruto, I don't want to be your apprentice anymore. From now on, I'm your rival.
Yeah, wrap on that episode. I don't have much else to say about it. I think this is, like, a fine moment, but the delivery on it's kind of flat.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, because it comes after the harem jutsu.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
Well, at least in the next one, Naruto gets diarrhea.
I guess that's a step up under certain standards.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to episode 3?
I'm more than ready to move on to episode 3.
Okay, so in episode 3, Naruto's a real ninja now. We meet all of the, like, secondary characters. We learn about how everyone loves Sasuke. Naruto and Sasuke have a little fight.
They have a little kiss.
They have a little kiss. They have a little fight. Naruto gets diarrhea at a really good time, and then gets diarrhea again, and then again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that counts as, like, a way to go through the top before we go in depth, right?
Yeah. That's basically the whole episode. So we open up. It's the morning Naruto's waking up. It's his first real day on the being a big boy ninja. He has breakfast. He puts on his headband.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a few things I want to talk about in Naruto's room. The first is, in his room, he has a titty calendar.
He does have a titty calendar, that's right.
And, like, the date circled is, like, October 15th, which is, like, 2 days before this episode aired.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, the position of, like, the days, like, along with the weeks, like, along with 2002. So, the anime has placed its stake in Naruto taking place in 2002.
Okay, good. And you know what? That tracks, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
9/11 has just happened, and it's...
9/11 has just happened. Osama bin Laden has been sealed inside the tummy of a baby boy.
Hold on. that timeline doesn't work.
What? What?
I think you have like some confusion about like the difference between 1 year and 12 years.
Yeah, I mean, 12 years from now, that baby boy's gonna be like, a 12-year-old, right?
This is a different baby boy.
Yeah, it's a different, like, we're gonna learn later that there's a fucking bunch of them, okay?
This is the Boruto character?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing, in the manga, Naruto is having, like, a slice of toast for breakfast, but the anime is, like, really quick to just play the fact that this kid fucking loves ramen. So he is eating ramen for breakfast, and also, he has a glass of milk poured and then proceeds to drink the milk from the carton like an animal.
Yeah.
I think it's the fact that he does shit like this. That's why the village really hates him.
Yeah, beautiful. So you get title card, puts on the headband. He goes out walking to school or whatever. He meets up with Konohamaru, and Konohamaru's all like, "Oh wow, a real headband. You're a big kid now."
Mm-hmm. I do want to shout out like a specific panel from the manga here.
Yeah,
because in the anime it doesn't feel like super notable because we've seen the backgrounds in the show a bunch, but like in the manga this is just like this really great panel. This like really dense like Ninja Village architecture, and like this is like really one of the strong suits of the manga artistically. I think like every time Kishimoto is just drawing like some really dense buildings. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that rules.
Yeah, you can also see there's a poster of Masashi Kishimoto here. Didn't make it into the anime, but the water tower with the bear on it is there.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, okay, so moving on from that, we see a character we saw in the first episode, but didn't get too much on. We see Sakura. Mm-hmm. Her mother called out to her that she should be leaving soon.
Yeah, this is our first anime original character, Sakura's mother.
Yeah, we do not see her.
No.
It's just a voice that calls out, like, "Hey, Sakura, it's time to leave now."
Yeah, kind of like Sora's mom.
Yeah, just like Sora's mom.
Yeah, this is the first of a bunch of scenes that get added to the anime from the manga, because this is another episode where they need to pad out 20 pages to fill 20 minutes. And I feel like there's like a much better time of it this episode for the most part, just because you can put other characters in it doing other things, and not, isn't it fucked up that fat ladies exist?
So Sakura takes offense to her mother saying that, like, okay, you need to be leaving now. She's like, yeah, I was gonna leave. We get that, like, little, like, inner dialogue with the angry Sakura.
We get like doomed gimmick inner Sakura.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, for like most of the video games, for all of like part 1 of Naruto, like basically all of Sakura's specials are based on inner Sakura, and then like because it just goes away eventually, they have to come up with like new shit for her, which is mostly just punching.
And to be fair, even though we don't see it on screen too much, Sakura is supposed to be good at punching later.
Yeah.
Not now.
Not now.
Later. Sakura leaves, walking down the street. She meets up with that bitch Ino.
Hell yeah. I think it's like really fun when like Sakura and Ino like see each other instantly, like, I fucking hate this bitch. I like it when two girls are just extremely competitive with each other. I like it a little less that like it's ultimately all down to like, oh, they both like the same boy. But like,
yeah,
I think they have a pretty fun dynamic that is like not in the comic a ton, and it gets to be in the anime a little more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like they're walking down the street having a little conversation, basically going like, Ino says to Sakura like, oh, I didn't think you'd graduate, that kind of ribbing. It escalates a little bit, and Sakura steps out in front to walk ahead of Ino. Ino does not have it and decides to step out, so she's walking in front. And so there's a little bit of back and forth until it devolves into just an outright foot race. Later, we're in the classroom where we're introduced to Shikamaru, mm-hmm. who is surprised that Naruto is here with a headband.
You did see that guy fail his test, so like it makes sense they'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think this first real look at Shikamaru is a good time to talk about the mesh.
Yeah.
People in Naruto just really wear mesh, huh?
Yeah, they love their mesh. What can you say?
Yeah, right, because like you could see Shikamaru's belly button.
I guess you can, huh?
So, like, it's not like it's something that just looks like mesh in the way that they drew it.
Mm-hmm. Like it's just mesh. I never really thought about this element of Shikamaru's design, but like I'm totally gonna notice it now.
Yeah, and so that's how we know that Shikamaru's gay.
Oh, okay.
Right, that's the secret.
All right.
Also, can we talk about the mummy behind him?
The mummy? Oh, okay. I didn't notice this mummy. I'm gonna need to like look for this mummy. Do you have like a picture of this mummy to show me?
Right. Let me grab a little snapshot. Like, I don't recognize this boy. He could be a character that I have just forgotten somehow. I doubt it, but there's just kind of a mummy there.
There's a mummy there. This isn't anybody, I'm pretty sure. This is just a mummy.
Yeah, okay. So one of the background ninja boys is a mummy.
It is pretty interesting that I mean, like there is an extent to which they can they can fill out the scene with like characters that exist. So it's kind of interesting to see like I mean I guess they basically give the speaking roles to the characters that exist for the most part, and like Shikamaru kind of draws the short straw because he's the one who gets assigned bully this scene.
Right, and like I don't know, he's not even really a bully in this scene. He's kind of just like, wow, hey Naruto, I didn't know you'd be here.
Yeah.
Naruto talks to Shikamaru, and, you know, they're having their conversation, and it zooms out to look at Hinata.
Hinata's just looking from the distance and blushing again. This is all she's got.
Yeah. You know, and she's like, oh, I'm so happy Naruto was able to graduate. And then we see Ino and Sakura, cheek to cheek, real close, just running down the hall. Mm-hmm. Together. They squeeze through the door, they each shout goal, and then they argue about who actually made it first. And that's when we learn that Naruto has a big crush on Sakura.
Sure. I'll believe Naruto loves women. It's really interesting because like in the manga, there's this bit, like I don't know if it comes up ever again, but there's like these two like little like square like narration boxes that are like in first person from Naruto. Like I don't think it ever comes up again, but like in the manga it's like Haruno Sakura, a total babe, but that's the problem.
Oh, amazing.
There's also one for Sasuke where it's like, Uchiha Sasuke thinks he's so cool. I hate that guy. It's such a wild stylistic thing because like I just don't think of that being a thing. Like I don't think Naruto's not a comic where we just get like Naruto's narration plastered over the whole thing. But like in this chapter,
there's a little bit in this episode too. Like we get to see a little bit of like Naruto's inner monologue like in the episode.
Like there's like his inner monologue, and like there's like tiny bits where he's like narrating the scene in like this really weird way. Like he's like explaining his circumstances to like an audience in a way he doesn't usually do.
Right. Sakura looks back, and Naruto thinks that, you know, she's looking at him. He's like, oh, yeah, Sakura's looking at me. But she pushes right past him to talk to Sasuke. Sasuke is so funny.
This is the official Konoha crush stance on Sasuke. That guy's really funny.
Sasuke is just sitting there, pouting.
He does not have time to take out of his busy schedule of pouting to care about women. And like all of the teachers are like watching this in a crystal ball and they're like, holy shit, this kid's so good at ignoring women.
The Hokage's secret crystal ball. One of the teachers is a mummy. Well, I'm glad that guy's son made it to be a ninja.
Yeah.
So Naruto gets pissed off that all the girls like Sasuke. And so he goes to like intimidate him by squatting on his desk right in front of him.
Also, about these girls, I think it's very funny that like for like every speaking role that can be like replaced with a character that exists later is like, you know, they fill the scene as much out as they can with characters that like are actual characters, but there's just not enough girls to fill out the scene.
Yeah.
So we get like a whole bunch of like dialogue from these like one-off girls who like Sasuke that we'll never see again.
Yeah, because there's only 3 girls in all of Naruto.
There's only 3 girls, and Hinata is assigned the one who doesn't like Sasuke. So, like, she can't be there.
Yeah. So Naruto goes to intimidate Sasuke by squatting on his desk and leaning down real close to him.
It's normal.
Yeah. And the kid sitting in front of Sasuke...
This kid who's, like, trying to steal Shikamaru's look. He's not quite got it, but, like...
Yeah, he's got the, like... He's not wearing enough mesh, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's too afraid to rock the mesh, and that's, like, really holding him back.
He leans back, you know, he's having his own conversation. He, like, leans back and bumps Naruto, pushing Naruto forward and right into the supple lips of Sasuke.
You don't have to say they're supple.
Well, why not?
I guess there's no good reason.
So they do a big kiss, and all the girls are mad at Naruto for kissing Sasuke before they could.
Now if they ever kiss Sasuke, they'll also be kissing Naruto.
Yeah, so, like, Naruto and Sasuke are like, ugh, I kissed a boy.
They're, like, very sure to let you know that they didn't like it.
It's very important that they didn't like it. And then Iruka decides to show up, and Naruto's all beat up, and Iruka explains that, you know, it's time to split everyone up into their 3-man squads.
This is another thing that's, like, very funny to me, because, like, we get another time where, like, we cut outside to the loneliness swing to, like, establish that time is passing, but when they ask, like, squads 1 through 6... Because they, like, filled out this classroom with other characters, but all of them are on teams that have numbers higher than 7. So, like, they still can't,
Right, yeah. So, obviously, Sakura and Naruto and Sasuke are all on a squad. Mm-hmm. And we get a cute little sequence where, like, Naruto's called first, and then Sakura's called, and Naruto's like, hooray! And Sakura's like, oh no. And then Sasuke's called, and Sakura's like, hooray! And Naruto's like, oh no. So then everyone else gets called. Is it Ino that's rude to Choji? Ino's route to Choji.
Ino's route to Choji. It's like, this is one of the things, like, they just can't really know. But like, it definitely comes across as weird how, like, sort of, like, put out by, like, being put on a team with Shikamaru and Choji, Ino is. Because, like, later we learn this is just, like, a generational thing. But, like, in this episode, she's like, I can't believe it's, like, I'm with these guys. Like, just because she's probably known these guys since, like, they were all kids and, like, you know, had reason to suspect they would be on the same team, regardless of how she felt about it. Yeah, this isn't, like, a criticism. It's just, like, it's interesting to see, like, what ways they can't really foresee, like, the way this one winds up shaping up early on.
Yeah, so Naruto complains about being on a squad with Sasuke, and then they're like, well, if we wanted to make all of the teams balanced, of course you would go with Sasuke. You know, he's the coolest guy here. Naruto and Sakura each go outside. Sakura is looking for Sasuke because she wants to go have lunch with him because they're in a team now. So, you know, maybe that means that they can spend time together. And then Naruto catches up to her and asks her if she wants to go have lunch because they're on a team now and maybe they can spend time together. And Sakura just completely shuts him down, says like, no, you're fucking crazy for thinking that would be an okay thing to ask me. Go the fuck away. Mm-hmm. And so Naruto goes to go sulk. Sakura continues to look for Sasuke. While sulking, Naruto notices Sasuke hanging out a window eating his funny little rice ball. He gets a really clever idea. He's gonna hop in there and kick his ass.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he wants to do this for normal reasons.
Yeah, me too. Ino, Choji, and Shikamaru are all eating lunch, and they see this happen. And they're like, oh man, Naruto's gonna go and attack him. What should we do? And they decide not to do anything, but it's okay. Because Sasuke kicks his ass inside and then hops out the window. Naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Got over to Sakura eating lunch alone, right?
Yeah. And then we go over to Sakura eating lunch alone, and she has this really cringe moment where she imagines what Sasuke would say to her.
She has the worst inner monologue in the world. In the manga especially, the inner monologue of the manga is, like, just dreadful. Do you mind if I read this?
No, go ahead, please.
Okay. The quote is, how can I overwhelm him by sex appeal when I got so shortchanged in the TNA department?
Christ.
Like, I was like, when I was first watching this episode and like seeing the Sakura and Ino stuff, I was like, this is kind of fun, but I wish it wasn't so like grounded in like the fact that they're like so revolving around Sasuke at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's miles better than like everything that like comes from the manga.
Not even that line, like that line in the anime isn't even that much better. Like,
No, it's just, like, especially bad in the manga, like, to the point, like, I was, like, kind of bowled over by it.
Yeah, so she imagines Sasuke walking up to her and complimenting her forehead.
You imagine him being like, the surface of your forehead is so kissable, and just like, that's what its surface area is for, which is, like, a pretty funny line, but, like...
Yeah, and then Sasuke approaches and says it for real.
Whoa!
Wow. Haha, just kidding. That sounds like something Naruto would say. And so he sits down and they have a little conversation. Sasuke asks what she thinks about Naruto, and she's like, I don't like Naruto. He's always annoying and like interfering, and he likes it when I fuck up. He's a bastard and I hate him.
I'm sorry I'm doing this so much in this episode, but there's like another line from the manga I want to call it, because like her dialogue as it becomes so extreme and she talks about Naruto like he's the fucking Joker. She's like, if he had his way, I'd never find love or happiness. He ruins everything. He enjoys tormenting me.
Wow. Yeah, okay, so she basically says that, except a little bit less severe.
Uh-huh.
And so...
She says that he's an annoying kid and not the Joker.
Yeah. And so Sasuke's like, wow. And then Sakura leans in for a kiss. Meanwhile, we flash back to that room where Sasuke kicks Naruto's ass. Except, what? Sasuke's the one tied up! And then we learned that Sasuke didn't know that Naruto could do Shadow Clone Jutsu and, like, substitutions and stuff, and so, like, he was caught off guard and he was tied up. And then we go back to air quote Sasuke, about to kiss. We hear hearts beating, they lean in close, and then Sasuke's tummy growls. Air quote Sasuke has to run off, because he's got this diarrhea.
There's like a bit before that, where, like, the romance of this, like, feels like it was written by aliens. Or like Sakura's talking about how much she likes Sasuke and she'd do anything to get Sasuke to notice her. And like Naruto's like, wow, I know I like Sakura. It's because she doesn't like me like this other boy so much. And it's like, I mean, that's never been my experience of romance ever. But like, maybe it's different for straight ninjas.
Maybe it's different for straight ninjas. So Naruto's in the bathroom while the real Sasuke walks past Sakura, and Sakura is like, oh, Sasuke, do you want to get back to that kiss we were gonna have? And Sasuke is just like, where's Naruto? She starts complaining about shit, talking about Naruto at first, and then keeps rambling, and eventually drifts on to about her parents and how annoying they are, about how much they care.
But also,
how
bad Naruto is. The way that Naruto is annoying and obnoxious must be because he doesn't have parents. And I see this scene and I understand why the impulse in the anime was to put Sakura's parents in this episode, because you hear her talk about this and you would assume that something about the character is grounded in her relationship to her parents, but really they just don't matter and never show up in the manga, because Sakura is just not a character that the manga invests in on that level.
And so Sasuke, another orphan, obviously takes a little bit of offense to that, and it's just I fucking wish I were you getting scolded by my parents. You don't know what loneliness is. I hate you. You're annoying. And so he stomps off to look for Naruto.
This is a really microcosm of the relationship writing in Naruto, where ostensibly this is a chapter about how Naruto likes Sakura and Sakura likes Sasuke and Sasuke doesn't like Sakura, but the only relationship that is conveyed with any clear sense of emotion and anything that feels really grounded and connects is the bit where Sasuke is defensive of Naruto because he understands the loneliness he's been through on some level, even if he doesn't like that guy.
For sure. And so Sasuke stomps off, and we're back to Naruto in the bathroom. He's finishing up, and he wonders if Sakura is still out there waiting for him. Outside the bathroom, he runs into Sasuke, and Sasuke is just alright, what the fuck, dude? Why'd you do that? And so Naruto gets all defensive, and he's oh, I just thought it would be fun. I gave it a try. Don't worry about it. And then does his shadow clones and jumps into attack again, because obviously he can't have Sasuke walking around when he's trying to be Sasuke and get a smooch from Sakura. That attack doesn't go well, however, because all of the shadow clones have diarrhea now. And so they start fighting each other to get into the bathroom.
We are at the point in this episode where they've done their best to expand out these 20 pages into a full episode, but we've reached the end of it and we've got 3 minutes left, so it's time for Naruto to repeatedly need to shit himself.
Right. Sasuke just walks away, and then Sakura is sulking because she knows she said something she shouldn't have, and Naruto comes walking back her way as Naruto. And so she makes an attempt to reach out and apologize, because I think part of her realizes how Naruto must feel when she's scolding him or whatever. Naruto does not buy it. Naruto thinks that this is obviously a ploy from Sasuke, and so he tells her off and stomps off.
Naruto really believes that everybody in the world is turning into other people to do pranks and shit way more often than they are.
Yeah, and then we get a beautiful scene where the third Hokage and Kakashi are in Naruto's house for some reason.
Yeah.
Just to poke around. They're just curious. They're haha, so this is how Naruto lives, huh? And then Kakashi picks up the milk, looks at the date, and is haha, wow.
This was bad 3 months ago. This was bad on July 19th, 2002. You'd think Naruto would have noticed at some point.
Yeah. He's wow, if Naruto drank this, he'd get really sick. And then we see Naruto on the toilet again, lamenting that he has no idea how this could possibly be happening. And credits.
Yeah, so how are we feeling about Naruto right now?
Right now?
In this exact moment.
Okay. Well, okay.
That is do you still like Naruto after watching this? If you were watching Naruto for the first time after these 3 episodes, if you were giving this the classic 3 episode test to see if you wanted to keep watching something, how would you be feeling?
Not very strong.
Yeah, I would.
All 3 of these episodes were kind of not very good.
I like the first one pretty alright. It's a solid first chapter of a shonen manga, and then
right.
Second episode's pretty bad.
And then the third episode is pretty bad.
It's better, but the actual bit, the entire second half of the episode is pretty rough.
Yeah.
It's just one of the things where the comedy premise of Naruto pretending to be Sasuke so he can kiss Sakura is it's not that fun.
No, it's not fun at all.
Yeah, it's really skeevy in a way that it's just not supposed to play that way. But it's hard for me to not feel kind of I don't like this. I don't.
Yeah, right. Obviously we're not supposed to read that much into it, right? It's just supposed to be hee hee, boys being boys, but icky yucky.
It's icky yucky.
Hopefully the next batch has some cool Naruto stuff in it.
The next batch is next we're talking about at least the start of the test that Kakashi has for them. So hopefully that'll be better.
Yeah, hopefully that's better. Kakashi kicks ass, so I'm excited to see him.
Kakashi's a cool guy. Everybody loves Kakashi.
Yeah, everybody loves Kakashi.
If you don't like Kakashi, don't write in. I don't want to hear about it.
Well, okay. Write in with your donation, and I might read it.
We will publish your Kakashi hate if you pay us.
It's on a sliding scale.
Like, it depends how, like, if you pay us $10, you can be like, yeah, he's kind of, I just don't invest in him that much. If you pay us like 20, you can say he kind of sucks. You pay us $50, you can like say you hate him outright. If you pay $100, you can just make whatever shit up you want, and like within reason, we won't deny it.
That's only for this first.
Yeah, as our services become more in demand. But, again, like this is kind of a shaky start, but like this is just sort of the way of things with like the beginning of a shonen manga a lot of the time. Like I fully believe Naruto will find its footing because I like Naruto a lot, and I remember a lot of stuff about Naruto that I like a lot.
Yeah, right. Like we haven't even seen Rock Lee yet.
We haven't even seen Rock Lee yet. We haven't seen Gaara yet. I love Gaara. We haven't seen
Zabuza.
Fucking Zabuza. We haven't seen Zabuza.
Zabuza kicks ass.
That's pretty cool. But no, again, like me saying these first 3 like chapters and episodes aren't great like taken as a unit is like not a condemnation. Ultimately, it's just it's a bit of a shaky beginning, but like I'm willing to be graceful about it and excited to keep moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yeah, so that's gonna put a wrap on our first episode. Next week we'll be watching episodes 4 through 6 of Naruto.
So see you then.